Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody to the Sandburg Library Evaluating Information Workshop. I'm Marla Turgeon. I'm your Sandburg Librarian, and the other woman that was speaking, you saw her on camera, is Rebecca Eaton. She's our library's coordinator of library services, and she's helping me out today. You've already seen the sign-in sheet and gotten signed in, so yay, we can be done with that part of it. I just want to tell you that this following information first was researched and created by a man named Mike Caulfield. He is the Director of Educational Technology at Washington State University in Vancouver. He came up with these following skills after studying online disinformation and how it affects students. And he decided, as you'll see, to come up with something that's a little simpler for all of us to follow when we're evaluating information online. So let's go to slide 2. And I will let you know that in this workshop, I'm gonna teach you a few evaluation skills, okay? Just like the ones that fact checkers use. So it's good and quick. We're gonna move on from those outdated 10-point checklists that you were always given, maybe in high school, or maybe even I gave you in the past. And we're gonna get away from the crap methodology too. Those just really don't work anymore. And, you know, did we ever really use them anyhow? They were so long and cumbersome. So the new approach I want to teach you is called SIFT. Stands for Stop, Investigate, Find, and Trace. We tend to look at these a little bit more as movements that go from one another, and they can go back again if need be. You'll understand more in just a little bit, but learning these movements are going to help you sort fact from fiction on the web, okay? When you practice them, SIFT reveals the necessary background to read, view, or listen effectively before you start reading an article or other online information. So the first move in SIFT is stop. It reminds you of two different things. First, when you hit a page and you start to read it, then we want you to stop and ask yourself, do I know this website? Do I know this information source? And do I know its reputation? If you don't, use the other steps I'll show you to get a sense of what you're looking at, okay? Don't read it or share it until you know what it is. Second, after you begin the process, it can be really easy to go down a rabbit hole, chasing after more and more obscure facts. We've all been there, and you kind of get lost in a click cycle. So if you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, stop and take a second to remind yourself just what your goal is. And then from there, you can adjust your strategy if it isn't working, okay? Make sure you approach the problem at the right amount of depth for your purpose. If it's something that's on social media that seems to be maybe an outrageous claim, then please look into it before you share, okay? If it's something for a class project, then you really need to dig deep and make sure that it's something that's deemed a respectable source for that project or paper. Now, the I in SIFT stands for investigating the source. And this doesn't mean you have to do like a prize-winning investigation before you engage with it, but just take 60 seconds to figure out where the information is coming from, and it's going to help you decide if it's worth your time or not. So the Stanford Media Literacy Experiment, in that experiment, fact checkers outperformed professional historians and Stanford students in just a few minutes by finding information on Wikipedia. And the experiment used two websites that I have shown here. The first is the American Academy of Pediatrics, and they were founded in the 1930s, and they have a membership of 67,000. It's considered one of the premier health authorities for children. And then the next one on the bottom right is the American College of Pediatricians. Now, they were founded in 2002 and have a membership of 500. This group was founded to protest the adoption of children by same-sex couples. This group is considered a hate group by lots of other organizations, okay? So they're from completely different worlds, so we think it should be easy to tell the difference, right? Both the websites look professional, there's no spelling errors, everything looks beautiful. But half of the historians weren't sure which site was more credible between these two. And 65% of the students chose the site that's considered the hate group to be the more credible source. But 100% of the fact checkers got it right, and they did it in a few seconds. So how did they do it? They Googled the sites. They asked themselves, who are the people publishing the information? Now here's a screenshot of the Wikipedia page that talks about the American College of Pediatricians. And yep, the librarians using Wikipedia. I'll explain why I use it in a moment. But the point here is not to look at what the group's website says about itself, because they're going to more than likely lie. You need to go out to the web and see what others are saying about it. That's where you're going to find out the truth about the site. Okay, so Wikipedia. Most fact checkers use Wikipedia as a starting point. While Wikipedia must be approached with caution, it's often the best source to get a consensus viewpoint on a subject. The Wikipedia community has strict rules about sourcing facts to reliable sources for their editors. And because these authors or editors must adopt a neutral point of view, its articles are often the best available introduction to a subject on the web. So now I'm going to show you the Wikipedia trick. I found an article in a publication called The Hill. I personally don't know this source, so I'll go to the browser bar and I take out everything after the initial domain name, including the slash that's there. And then I add a space and I type in Wikipedia. Then I hit enter or return on my keyboard, and the search is going to float the Wikipedia page at the top of your page's results. And here's the Wikipedia blurbs. It turns out that The Hill is one of the largest independent political news sites in the US. It was founded 26 years ago. And notice that the writers for this publication are from both political parties, both Republican and Democrats. And so I found from these findings that it's an unbiased and respected news source, okay? So even if you're questioning the Wikipedia article, you can scroll to the bottom of the page. Every fact in Wikipedia should be sourced to another publication. When you click through those sources, you should be able to verify the facts in that original Wikipedia article, okay? Then many times I'll do this if you need, or if you feel like you need to go further than a Wikipedia check, just do another web search for reviews on your original site and you'll find it out there. So are there any questions or comments so far? Are you guys with us? Everybody good? All right. Okay. So sometimes when you investigate the source like we did in Move 2, you're going to find that the source is sufficient for your needs. But at other times, you might not be able to determine the reliability of a source. But when it comes down to it, we just want to get an accurate story on the subject from somewhere, right? So this is when Move 3 comes into play. When the initial source you have is low quality and you just care about that claim, then your best strategy is to find a better source overall, right? So to find better coverage, you can do a quick search out on the web for a claim or a story. Just type keywords from the article title into a web search and see if there's any agreement or controversy on that story. If your search shows that the story is being covered by multiple outlets, then that's a good sign that it's a true story. And this is an example. This article claims that this man was convicted of poaching deer and was sentenced to watch the Disney movie Bambi once a month for 12 months while he was in prison. And, you know, first thing I did was like, really? Did this really happen? Did a judge really sentence this guy? And also, who is this innerstrengthzone.com anyway? So, but at this point, I really don't care about the source, but I do want to know if it's true. So I'm going to type in the keywords, Deer Poacher Bambi, into my search bar. And here's the results I get. I got a hit from NBC, BBC, and the ABC news outlets. And yes, I clicked on one of the links and found out that the story is true. Now, if I wanted to share the story, I would share it from one of these news sources and not that original source. And I'm going to follow up on this. The deer were trophy bucks that were taken illegally for their heads, leaving the bodies of the deer to waste in the forest. So the judge on this case, he included the special addition to this David Berry sentence due to the horrible nature of the case. If you ask me, I think, you know, the guy should have been sentenced longer personally, but, you know, we'll go on from this. So another way to find out if a source is true is by using these fact-checking sites. My favorite one is Snopes. It's really easy to use, and they also verify where they get their sources from. It began as an urban legend debunking site, but now it crosses into where you can find most anything you find out on the web, you can check on Snopes. The other two fact-checking sites shown here are PolitiFact and factcheck.org. And they're both nonpartisan spaces for political information. So here's another tip too at the bottom of the page. If you want to search online and include one of these fact-checking sites in the search query, you put in deer, poacher, and for this one I put in Snopes. In the search bar, you know, click your enter and it's going to float the result to the top of the page for you on that results page. So move 4, or the T in SIFT, is to trace the claims back to the original source. Okay, and here is a good example of tracing claims. You can see the headline is about Donald Glover getting an Amazon deal for a new project with them, and Malia Obama is going to be a writer on the upcoming project. So I did a Wikipedia trick to find out more about this publisher, Vulture, but I couldn't find information about them, about Vulture. So instead, I'm going to look for the original source of the story here. And I noticed that the article cited The Hollywood Reporter. So I went out, I clicked on the link to find the original story, and then here's what I found. The original write-up was mostly about the Amazon project, whereas the Vulture article turned it into an article about Malia. And that's okay. It's not that big of a deal, but I just wanted you guys to see that writers find bits and pieces of other news and take their own spin on it. It's important to note that this is the way news and information travels too. But, and by the way, I didn't know much about the Hollywood Reporter, so I went back, I did the Wikipedia trick on their publication, and it turns out that it was Hollywood's first daily trade paper, started back in the 1930s. So it's a trustworthy source for entertainment news. Anyhow, the point is here that we go upstream to get to the people that are verifying the facts. And this is called the original reporting source. Once we find that source, then we can invest our time in the article and really start thinking about the issue. So why do we call these movements? Well, we can move back and forth between the moves. Here's another real life example I'll tell you about. Recently, I spotted an article on Facebook that a conservative group shared from a publication called IllinoisReview.com. And so the first thing I did was that Wikipedia trick, and I couldn't find anything at all about the publication. So I also went out and did some other web searches, still couldn't find anything about them. So I kind of started down a rabbit hole of clicking to find the source. So at that point I stopped and I thought, okay, this proves to me that IllinoisReview.com is not a good source. and they also in the article didn't give me links to other sources within the story, so that was another big red flag for me. But getting back to the article, since the article was about a politician, I searched the politician's name and found other articles about the same claim that Illinois Review had. So I found that the publication's not a good source, but that the information they shared was correct. And if I wanted to share it or use it for another reason, I would use the respected publication to do that. I wouldn't use IllinoisReview.com. But as you can see, I moved around the skills to check up on this story. Okay. So I want to review the basics of SIFT that we just put into practice. First, stop and remember to ask yourself, do I know this website? Do I know this information source? And do I know its reputation? If you don't, then use the other moves to get a sense of what you're looking at. Don't read it or share it until you know what it is. Then next is investigate. Use a web search to investigate a news organization or other resources out there. And remember to use that Wikipedia trick. Then find articles with better coverage. Do a web search with a few keywords and see what other publications and what other news organizations are saying about that issue. Remember, you can also use those fact-checking websites such as Snopes and PolitiFact, those places. The last is trace, and you can trace it back to the original source to verify the facts. Click on those follow links that might be in the stories or the sources that the article cites towards the end, and look at that original context to decide if the story is true or not. So that is it for this presentation. It's short and sweet. If you need any additional help with anything library related, go ahead and email us at that library@sandburg.edu. I really hope that you guys, took away some good information here and some of those tricks. It's, when I found the SIFT, I was like, the heavens opened up for us, because this is just, it's so easy and quick and so much better than, those crap methodologies and the 10-point system and, going through a list. Nobody likes that at all.